Alright guys, we're going to walk through the process of creating our ATV drawing and design in OnShape. So I'm going to be showing you a real basic starting point, and if we have a look through what I've got, I'm going to set it back up so it looks like it will for you as you start. So we can see we've got our isometric, we can move it around, and I'm going to create my sketch 1. So I'm just going to restore that because I was playing with it beforehand. Now double click on the sketch or right click on to edit, but you want to make sure you got this little guy open, otherwise it's not going to, you're not going to have the edit to sketch options up the top here. So we're going to be using a bunch of different elements of this to be able to develop it up. The first thing I want to use and create is my tracks. So I'm going to start by drawing my circles for the gears and the cogs. So the ones that I'm using are going to be 32 and 24. So I'm going to create 2 of those and then 2 more over here. So I'm going to make those equal. So I'm going to use my constraint to make those 2 the same and those 2 the same. The next thing I'm going to do is, because I'm happy for mine to be symmetrical, you might have it something different, but I'm going to create a line through the middle which allows me to develop these to be symmetric. So that one to there, then makes them exactly the same from each side. So now I have, if I move this one, you can see he's going to move around. Now I'm going to get him parallel. So now that stays on that line and that's good. So now these guys are where they want to be. So the next step of this is I'm going to create a line to join around the outside of these guys. If I click and drag the line, it's not going to continue to go through, but if I just click one press for each one, I can keep sort of drawing around. In this case, that's unhelpful. That's not what I want to do. So Control Z is your friend. You can always undo something. But line, if I click and hold and go to the point and release, it will then stop as I go. But what I want to do is I want to draw around the whole outside of that so that I've got my, basically where the track is going to go. What I want to do now is make sure that each of these lines are tangent with each other as I go through. So that now all looks pretty good. What I want to do next is I'm going to actually remove those circles so that I can see the distance and start getting some dimensions set up for this. So I'm going to use the trim tool to be able to remove the parts that I don't need in this case. Now if we have a look, we can see 2 little points there. I'm going to bring those together, or I'm going to trim one of those off because I don't really want to have that double up line there. So I'm going to use my trim tool again and remove one of those. I want to make sure that that tangent is there, so he tidies that up. So now if I hover over each of these, I can see the constraints that are on them. Hover over that, we can see we've got tangent on those, happy days. So now that's good. What I want to be able to do is check the distance of that whole thing. Now I could go through and select them all and you can see that length starts going up, but this is pretty tedious when you have to do this more than once. So the shortcut to that is, if I want to right click on one, I can go to select tangent connected edges, which will then select all of them, and I can have a look. So I want to aim so that the combination I'm going for is 435 millimeters. So I'm going to work these around a little bit by adding dimensions and working with that to be able to go through. So I'm going to start, add my dimensions, and I'm going to go from here to here and make this a little bit lower. All right, and we're going to check those again. So I'm going to select tangent and show the measure tool. So 461, I probably need to bring it in a little bit. So I can leave that up. I don't need to keep removing that. But I'm going to add another dimension. So shortcut is D. to that point, and I'm just going to round it out to a nice 50. All right, I'm going to check that again. So select one of those lines, 460. It's still probably a little bit tall. So let's go and add another dimension to this guy, and let's bring that in a little bit. So let's go maybe 80 and see how that goes. Select again, 426, so I'm much closer now. So I'm going to drop this down, 29, check it once more, 425, 380, so I'm again just going to nudge it down, 28.8, let's see how we go. So the closer we get, if we have it too close or too far over, all right, I'm pretty happy with that as my dimension for my tracks. Real simple tank, classic tank style. So I'm going to leave that as that, and what I'm going to do so that I've got something to reference to is I'm going to offset that to be able to cut and extrude out my tracks. So I'm going to again right click on that to be able to select the tangent connection edges, and you can see my offset is there. Now I want to change that. And I want that to be, let's try that again. If I go -1, that should then flip the side. And so I've got that on the outside now. So you can see he's gone out from my dimensions. So now I've got my lines, I can finish that sketch. We can see the extrude is up here. Shift E is the shortcut. And I'm going to select that outside portion. Let's just go, we probably don't need to go much more than 15. And the way that I want to go out is that way, away from my front face. That's perfect. I'm going to create that new one and tick OK. A good habit to get into through this process is actually rename the things that we're doing. So this one here, I'm going to rename the sketch, and that's going to be my side and my tracks. And this one was my tracks. So I'm going to edit that, the name, and go tracks. So by putting those names in there, it's going to be much easier to be able to go back and reference what I've done. The little symbol next to it shows us what we're working with. So down here, the part that I've created is my track. So I'm happy with that so far. I'm not finished with this sketch, so I can refer to things on here again. So I'm going to go back into that. So double click on him or edit, and I want to be able to add in my parts for the side. So I've already got my points, my axes for my wheels. Let's have a look at some of the dimensions that I need to consider for this. So if I jump over to my details here, we can see you've got access to this document, but I've got my tracks, I've got my distance of bits and pieces here. So if we have a look, I have about 6.5 on the outside for my geared motor, and each of these has a hole through the middle, 3 millimeters for the threaded part. Now, if I wanted to actually screw into the wood, my M3 bolt through the middle, I'm going to make that 2.65. So that's what I'm going to do in this, because I wanted to actually screw into it to give it a little bit more security, and I don't have to worry about bolts if I don't over tighten. So I'm going to add those on now. I'm going to make this one here my motor, and then I'm going to come up here. He's going to be 2.65, and then each of the other ones I'm just going to drop on, and again use my equal. So if I select them all first, is probably the easiest way to do it, and then I choose my equal, it then changes what I've selected. But if I've got multiple things I want to do, I select that and I can do 2 pairs at a time. But that was nice. I've got my holes ready to go. The next thing I think I need to do is make the outside shell of this a little bit further in. So I'm going to select that one there again and get the whole thing. And I'm going to offset again. I want to bring it in. 7 mils is probably a little bit close there. I want to make sure I've got a bit more material around that. So let's just take that back a little bit. Let's go 5. And I'm happy with where that's sitting. So I'm going to escape off that. There's my outline for my side piece. Now, obviously you guys can go through and get a little bit more creative with it. We could try removing some material, but the next thing I need to be able to do is a way to be able to attach my my centerpiece, the bit that my breadboard and the motor is going to attach to. So I'm going to start by adding another circle, or actually I'll use a 3-point arc this time. So I'm going to go from here to there, and I want that to then line up. So that should be the same dimension. If I go 11 plus another 10, that's going to be my 32 that I go through here. Because what I want to be able to see is where my motor will end up being. So I'm going to remove that. I want to get my 32. So I'm going to try a different tool. So you can see we've got the extend. So in the underneath the trim, I can go to the extend, which is an X. I'm going to choose that 32 mil, and I want to bring him all the way around to that. I can now, I'm going to trim that bit. The shortcut is M, and then this line here, I'm going to make construction by making it Q, because I really just want that as a reference point. So that's where the thing goes through. But what I want to check as well is how big this guy is. So he's 24.7. So I want to, or I could round that up to 25, because I want to be able to have my piece sitting on top of that. So I'm going to go to my circle, and I'm going to go, that's going to be dimension 24.7, and then that takes us through to there. So if I wanted to make this a little bit neater, I'd possibly take this back out a little bit, so maybe out to 4, so that the motor kind of is in line with this. So 3.7, that looks closer. So I'm going to leave it there just so that the motor's not overhanging on the edge here. So I've got that set up there, which is nice. I can remove that one, that was not required, and that gives me the line so that my motor will sit on the bottom of my bed. So I'm going to choose a line, bring it through to the middle, so I've got something that's parallel, and I'm going to make that tangent so that that's fixed at the top. So now I've got a level that I'm going to add my drawing, basically my base, and how I'm going to attach my base to. So that's looking good there. Before I finish off with this axle here, I'm going to have a look back over here, and what you'll notice if we zoom in onto this one, we've got these holes to be able to attach. So they're 3 mil diameter, and if we have a look closely, they're about 8.5 mils out from the center. So I need to add 2 holes, whether they go side to side or up or down, it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to add 1 more circle, and I'm going to click that out here. Now, I could just do the maths in my head, but I want to be able to go 8.5 times 2. So I can actually do some calculations through here. So now I've got how far they are away, make that a construction line. So again, I'm going to hit that Q, and I can add my 3mm circles so that they are in line with that. Again, I'm just going to do 1 of them. I probably want to change that off construction and change him off construction. So by hitting Q or pressing it up here, I can change it back. add my last circle over here, and I'm just going to make those equal and make sure that he is locked in, so he's gone black. That's good. So now I've got the 2 holes for the screws for that. I've got the center hole for the axle to come through. I don't need anything else there. I need to start adding my connections up here. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to add a few tabs and then a couple of holes for the T-nuts. So I'm going to start with this part here. So I'm going to grab a rectangle, put it on that line, and I want that to be 3 mils high because we're using 3 mils MDF, and then I want that, I'm going to go maybe 15 long for my tab. Okay, so I've got that set up, which looks good. I want to be able to then add, I'm going to add another one maybe in the middle. 3 mils is locked in, and I'm going to go again that 15. That's great, and then I might do one more over the other side, but I'm going to do that using a different tool. So what I'd like to do here is I want him centered. I'm going to use the midpoint, and so I want to be able to choose this one, and then I want to choose that, which has pulled it down. That's probably unhelpful. Let's see if I can use it in a different way. So I want that, and it's not going to give me the midpoint. All right, so the other way to do that is I'm going to go symmetric, those two with him. So now that's squared away. I'm now going to go a dimension. How far do I want that away? I'm going to push that out. Maybe if I go 30, that's okay. And then I'm going to have a hole in the middle of that guy. So I'm going to go there. He's a 3 mil hole, and I want that one is going to be, I probably need to add a construction line through the middle of these guys, and then same deal, a construction line into the middle of that so I can get my midpoint. Now that didn't go construction, so I'll again adjust that guy. He is construction, cool. So now what I can do is I can grab, unselect them, grab that circle, drop him in there. So now he's in line with that on that side. That's awesome. So the next thing I want to be able to do is repeat that on the other side. So I'm going to use my mirror tool in this case. So the first thing I want to do is choose a mirror line, that one there. And then what I want to mirror, I need that one, that one. Zoom in a little bit to get the right things, and that one. So then that has flipped over everything that I need. Hit escape to release that tool. Now I think I've got everything that I want at this point. I may come back in and adjust some bits later, but right now that covers everything that I need it to. So I'm going to now finish that, hit my Shift E for extrude. I select that face, and you can see it has ignored the other bits. In this case, I'm going to flip the direction and go my 3 mils for my MDF. So if we have a look, that looks good. I'm going to tick on that. So this is going to be my extrude for my side. And this one probably wants to be, this probably end up being my right side, but I'm going to leave that there for the moment. Just leave it side, and I'm going to rename him side as well. So now I've got those pieces ready to go. I can start looking at my centerpiece. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to start a sketch on one of these faces here so that I can build it straight in line. So because I've got that front pane, I can hide that sketch now, and I should be able to then access him. So I'm going to now create a new sketch, and I'm going to add that there. So you can see my sketch is now sitting on that space. I'm going to go to top now. Now, what might be helpful is really what I need to be able to see is where those are up to. So I can actually do a analysis view where I can cut through and see where those are nice and easy. So let's have a go at that. All right, so the way we get to have a look at the section view is actually over in this little guy here. So if I go down to the bottom, I can see this section view. So from here, I'm going to select the face that I want to sort of cut away on. So I'm going to select that top one. You can see as I pull down, it starts to remove that through. So if I leave that about there, so I can see where those edges are, I'm going to hit tick. And now if I go to my top view, it's nice and easy to see where each of those are. So the bits that I want to be able to do is I'm going to add my rectangles and attach them so I have my tabs created there. Okay, so there's my tabs, and I'm probably going to go out to about where those edges are, but I'm going to do that from the center. So I'm going to go from one side out and just see how far that goes. So that is, let's go, that's, if we go 80, how far does that take us? A little bit further, and we probably need to have it somewhere about 60 wide. So I might drop that down just a little bit. Let's go 79, 78, so that it's kind of about where it is and it's not overhanging or too far from that part. So the reason I went 60 here is if we have a look back over at our details here, let's jump back up to what we have. So if we have a look at the dimensions of this guy, he's 52 wide with the little connection points there. We want to be able to have two of those motors next to each other. So we need a little bit of space for the wires and have access. So if I did 104, we're not going to have enough space. 110 might be, 120 is going to give us some space. So I've gone halfway across there. I might actually leave that there, so then I'm able to flip it across for the rest of it over here. So I'm going to use that one and mirror the other sides. So I can then get my tabs. I'll need to add in my T-slots for my nuts as well. So we'll go through that process now as well. I'm just going to do one on this side and then mirror the pieces across. So from here, I'm going to add in a rectangle. Let's try that again. Maybe pull him a bit bigger. So width-wise, we're going to be 3 for the main part. And distance-wise, I normally leave it, I think, about 9. So we've got heaps of space for it. He's going to then be dimensioned. I'm going to put a construction line in the middle so that I can dimension it from this side. So if we remember, we had him 15 from each side. I'm going to use my horizontal with that guy, and I'm going to put my coincident, that one and that. No, it's not going to let me do that. Let's try that again. That one and that one should bring it down. So lines will then pull it in. So it's right on the edge, ready to cut out. I need to now have the piece of bolt. So if we imagine I'm using a 10mm screw, I'm going to then put a rectangle through here. So width-wise, I want it 5.4. If you want to actually measure the bolt yourself, go for it. And then it is 2.4 if I remember correctly. So that's something we can check at another point. So I'm just going to pause the video and confirm that for you before we go too much further. All right, so the 5.4 is correct. I might just nudge this out to 2.5. 2.4 is probably going to be okay, but we just want to make sure we've got a little bit of breathing space for that nut, and we don't want to have it too tight. So now we've got that looking all right. What I want to do now is I'm going to go a dimension from this side to there. So if I have 3mm here and I go in about let's go 4 mils in. I've got then 7 mils and then the 10 mil nut. If I needed to, I could use a 12 mil and it's still going to have enough space there. So that's what I want to be able to set up. He's looking good. I can leave all those dimensions there, and I want to be able to center him. This is probably the last thing. So see how those lines are still blue. So I'm going to use my symmetric and choose those two, and that's why I had that center line there. So he's now ready to go. I'm going to now mirror this to this side and then mirror the whole thing over to the other so that I can get my full piece. So let's get that moving now. So I'm going to go to my mirror, which is up here. The mirror line in this case is that one. Then everything I want to be able to do, I'm going to click through and add those on. Now, I don't know if there's an easier or a faster way to do this, but we're just going to make sure, and you can just keep going back and checking that you've got everything that you need to, and that looks right. So now we've got pieces there. Now, to make our life easier, I'm going to select this one and I'm going to make him a construction line. So now that is a full piece. So we can do that again, probably with these top two, which will uncover that. But what I'm going to try now, let's see if we can go and select tangent. Is that going to say no? Because it's not. So what we might do is we're going to mirror that on that line, and we're just going to go through and select our pieces again. Might let us select all that. Awesome. So is that taken that? Yes. So we can select those. We need that piece and that piece. And our last one in the middle there. So now if we have a look, we've got all of our pieces mirrored. We are able to now extrude that out. Now you may want to add a little bit of detail or holes on here depending on what you want to attach. I'm just going to leave it solid for the moment and leave you guys for the creativity. But I'm going to finish that sketch, rename him. So this is going to be my, call it my base. Now I'm going to extrude the next piece. Now this guy, we're going to go a new. So notice we've got some options here. So I'm going to go new so that it starts again. I want that to be 3. And I want to make sure that I've got all the pieces there. So see how those pieces aren't included. I could add those on. Or if I'd done a cut, I could have removed those pieces and they would have been good to go as well. So I'm going to go tick on that. That's all looking good. And what I'd like to do is turn off that section view now. And I can see that I've got, if I have a look, those are lined up nicely. If I zoom in, I can see my holes are lined up nicely to be able to attach there. So that is ready to go. What I'm going to leave that there for the moment so that I can probably add, and this is what I would encourage you guys to do, is we have a little bit of lack of stability if we just have these guys here. So a longer axle is going to make it a little bit more stable. So if I rename this part, so this is going to be my base, I'm going to add in another piece like this guy. So I'm going to choose my side and I want to be able to copy him and be able to edit that sketch a little bit. So I'm going to grab another extrude from that base. I'm just going to hide these guys for a second. Now I'm sure there's other ways to go about this, but I'm kind of trying it this way. So I'm going to do another extrude here based on that side piece. he's going to be 3 mils, and I want to be able to offset this guy. So I want him to come in, I want him to be 3 mils there, change direction, change the direction there. So I want him to be in about 15 mils should be, all right, maybe I'll go 12. So he's now there. I'm going to tick on that, hide that guy, and I can turn these guys back on. So now I've got that second piece sitting through there. What I want to be able to do is I'm going to create a new sketch and cut away some of the pieces that I don't need on that piece there. So I'm going to create a sketch, draw on that, and basically what I want to be able to do is I'm going to cut away some of this. So the key bits that I probably want to get rid of will be that bottom piece there. And I'm just going to keep this really, really square. I can, so that's now there. I'm going to go from there through, and this is something that you guys can have a bit of a play with about how you can make this work. But I'm going to literally select those pieces there, and what I can now do is if I go Shift Extrude and select those two pieces, what I want to be able to do is I want to remove them and choose from the part that I want to be able to remove it. So if we have a look, I want to go out of part 4. We're just going to go 3 mils. So it should be just taking away the pieces there. I'm going to go tick. And he did not like that. So let's try that again. So I want to remove from part 4. Okay, to take a little bit of a backward step, we're going to readjust this a little bit because we need to make sure that we can actually remove the part. So I've hidden the base so I can have a look a little bit closer at what's happening. I want to be able to cut out those pieces there. So I'm just going to hide that so that we've got that as one piece, and then I'm going to try that extrude again. So I have selected the pieces that I wanted, it's gone that way, and I've made sure that it's removed. So now what I should have is he's gone through that, 3 millimeters, remove from part 4. Alright guys, so we had some issues trying to get that cutaway to work, so I've just gone and deleted that part out, and we're going to try it a different way. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to hide the base for the moment, and we're going to go through and create a new plane offset from here. So we're going to go that 12 mils out that I was thinking. So that's gone the right way. I'm going to tick on that. So now I've got this new plane. I can actually add a sketch to that. So this little guy is really handy, which allows me, if we go onto that, to actually select all of those bits. So I can then go in and add the parts of the drawing that I want to be able to utilize for this next piece. So I want to make sure I've got those center circles. I'm going to then, let's maybe go to about there and cut him off. So I'm going to hide that side now, and I've got my pieces to try and put together. So let's go in and join the dots. Now this is not going to be perfect, but I should be able to develop a bit of a cutout to be able to give myself I'm just going to just go straight down from there, which then I should be able to have that piece that I can then use. Now my issue is going to come from how my base is, so I probably need to make some adjustments to my base. so that it can fit in. I ideally will probably add in a T-slot somewhere here as well to be able to fix it on a little bit more securely to the base as well. It'll also give me a nice little thing. So if I drop that, I'm just going to literally throw one in the middle. So we know that he's 3 wide, and I had him at 9. I'll zoom in. Let's drop in. Again, I'm doing this really quickly. You guys can have a little bit more of a play to make it work for yours. And that is 2.5. Dimension down from here. He is about 4 away. And then last one, we'll add a center to that so that I can balance those guys in the middle. So now he can move around. Let's just go somewhere in the middle, or we can duplicate that. But at the moment, I'm happy with him being about 50 from that end. Beautiful. All right, so that is now ready to go. He's kind of locked in, and I'm going to extrude that piece there. No, not that piece, that piece. We just want to go 3 mils. We are adding a new part. Excellent. So that we're going to call this the inner side, and we're going to go in and add to the base. So we can see that obviously I would need to do a cutout on the base there and add a circle to that. So if I do that quickly let's rename that sketch. So that is going to be my inner side. And the plane there is for my inner side too. If you wanted to, you could add in what they are. So the extrude is for my base. So again, I'm going to just rename that, keep my conventions going. So I want to edit that sketch, and because I did that before the inner piece, it's going to be a bit hard to reference that. So if I pull this guy up, I can actually reorder things a little bit, and he's not going to let that because he's actually got references the other way. So if I take my dimensions, let's see if I can actually go back in, or I need to do a new sketch. So let's add another sketch on this guy to be able to actually reference those bits. So I'm going to go from there to there, and I want to be able to go from there to about there. So 25.5 and 3. So now that end is not okay. So let's do the same thing that end. So that's now cut out. No issues with the square. I mean, a circle would probably be a little bit better. So let's find that circle. Center, drop that out to our 3, and then I'm going to make each of those lines a construction so that they don't get cut. So what I can do now is I'm going to go shift, let's hide the inner side. I'm going to go shift E. I'm going to remove based on these guys. Remove from the base, and I'm just going to go, instead of blind, I can go up to part, so it cuts through those pieces. So now I'm going to go tick, and now I've got those pieces so that he will fit nicely. So what I probably need to do on the other side is mirror that across. So I'm going to go back into that sketch for the base update for inner side. So if I go back up into him, I'm going to grab a construction line from the middle and then mirror those across so that I can do that on the other side as well. So, oh no, I want mirror line first and then select my parts. So that one, that one, that one, that one. Just the circle will be good. And then other end. So they're now mirrored across, tick, and I can now update. Oh, they've already updated on the extrude. So that is now ready to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave the assembly and we'll worry about how we design that later. And we're going to go in and create our drawing to be able to send to the laser cutter. So the template is there. Open that. Doesn't matter which one we use here. I'm going to literally delete it out. I'm going to just pause that for a second, select all of that. And what I want to do is I'm going to make sure the sheet details, so double click on that. Scale wants to be 1:1. Now I can add my views. So select him. And I'm going to grab my base. I'm going to change it from front to being top. He can go there. Escape off. So notice how we've got those crosshairs on there. I right click on that body. I'm going to now go to show or hide auto center marks. That will remove those, and that's looking nice. I'm going to add in my next part. So I want my inner side. Add him over here. And that looks good. Escape off so I don't need any other versions, and I'm going to then, same deal, go show hide, auto hide those. While I'm still selected on that, Control C, Control V, allow me to grab a second one. I could rotate those a little bit to be able to fit them a bit nicer, but for this purposes, I'm just going to leave him there. I'm going to grab my next piece, which I know is my side. I'm going to change, that looks good on that side. Before I copy it, again, remove those auto hide marks. Select him, Control C, Control V, and I've got my parts. It would be worth trying to just get them a little bit neater and closer so that we save a little bit of material. So if I went that guy, I can move him. And I should be able to then rotate. Okay, not a super easy way to just go and rotate those for the moment. So we're going to leave them sitting neatly. They're ready to export to our laser cutter. So if I right click on here, I'm going to rename him again, give him a meaningful name, DXF. The reason I do this instead of trying to export pieces over here is this will update each time I change my studio over here. So I've got that ready to go. Right click here, I hit export, and you'll see the format. It gives me a bunch of different options here. I'm going to make sure I've got that. I hit export. It's going to pull it out for me, ready to go to the laser cutter.